the government now doesn't have the money there in order to continue food safety inspections. And we have much higher food safety illness and recalls in the U.S. than you do in the U.K. They are cutting the number of people whose job is to maintain national parks so you can visit those parks.
We're going to stay in the US to talk about Mr. Musk. Elon is stepping back from DOGE, his disruptive Department of Government Efficiency. He's dropping down to 1 to 2 days per week there, he says, because getting the government's financial house in order, that work is mostly done, i.e. I fired a lot of people. I don't necessarily want to be around to deal with the consequences, but I do wonder whether that 71% fall in profits at his electric car company, Tesla, played its part in that decision. The market certainly seemed to think so. Shares of Tesla have shot up almost 8% today on the news he will be spending more time at the company. Donald Trump has been speaking in the Oval Office tonight, as we've been saying, and he took a question on Elon Musk, where he seemed to talk about his time in the administration in the past tense.
Well, first of all, I can't speak more highly about any individual. He's an incredible guy. He's a brilliant guy. He's a wonderful person. I've seen him with his family. I've seen him with a lot of his children. He's got a lot of children. He treats them good. He loves his children. But he's a brilliant guy. And he was a tremendous help, both in the campaign and in what he's done with DOGE. And, you know, we're talking about almost $200 billion and rising fast, because many of the things that we were looking at are now being found out to be fact.
David Cay Johnston is an investigative journalist and author of It's Even Worse Than You Think, What the Trump Administration is Doing to America. Hi there, David.
Hello, Ollie.
Hi, thanks for joining us. He was a great figure. He was a great help. He's in the past tense. Is he gone?
Well, I certainly expect his role will be diminished, and what Elon Musk has done certainly has not helped put the country's financial house in order. I just spoke the other day with a lawyer who has a client in tax court, and the government moved to dismiss the case, and the judge got the government lawyer to acknowledge that the current budget for expert witnesses in civil tax cases, where you're accused of cheating but not at the level of criminality, the budget for expert witnesses for each case is now $1. In other words, they're not going to pursue these cases. That doesn't put the financial house of the U.S. in order to let suspected tax cheats get away without even paying.
I mean, we talked early on in this second administration about the strategy of just throwing a lot of stuff at the wall so that people don't notice what's going on. What is it that we've been missing, really? What hasn't been reported widely about what Elon Musk has done at DOGE?
Well, the cutting of the federal workforce, which is much smaller relative to the population of the country than it was in 1950, is going to have only a minimal effect on the outflow of payments to people. But at the same time, the government now doesn't have the money there in order to continue food safety inspections. And we have much higher food safety illness and recalls in the U.S. than you do in the U.K. They are cutting the number of people whose job is to maintain national parks so you can visit those parks. Many of the people who were fired were midstream in long-term scientific research, especially dealing with cancer, and they just canceled these projects and fired the scientists, the lab technicians, the secretaries on those projects, throwing away all the money that had been invested in these projects. And the total financial effect will be tiny. What they're really doing, and Congress now has a bill with about 180 sponsors, all Republicans, is getting ready to pass an even bigger tax cut for people who have multi-million up to multi-tens of billions of annual income.
And what about Tesla? Because it seems like, maybe he was jumping before he was pushed, but it seems like Elon Musk is stepping back from DOGE because of this disastrous fall in profits at his electric car company, 71% fall. Do you think, as the markets clearly do, investors in Tesla clearly do, that him returning to Tesla will save Tesla in the long term, given that so many of their core customers who wanted electric vehicles because they were interested in saving the planet now effectively see him as a Nazi saluting proto-fascist.
Well, one of the interesting dynamics here is the people who are buying Teslas tend to be liberal Democrats who are affluent. The profits would be even worse and the revenue worse, but for the fact that Tesla doesn't just make cars. They have a substantial battery business. That's not going to be affected nearly as much by popular revulsion. But we've seen Tesla sales throughout Europe and here in the United States fall sharply, people giving away their Teslas in a few noted cases. So on the car business, he has a real fundamental problem. And by the way, his cars are getting pretty old. He hasn't been investing in updating them. So competitors have come along with better electric cars. I drive an EV, for example, and I wouldn't consider a Tesla because it's no longer on the cutting edge of electric vehicles.
That said, though, I mean, in the long run, he is the world's richest man, so it doesn't matter if his value goes down a bit, but it hasn't. He's made $10 billion today, according to one estimate I saw reported, because of people buying Tesla as it goes back on the up. And he's got his other businesses, hasn't he? He's got SpaceX, he's got Starlink, he's got X, which obviously isn't particularly profitable, but might be one day. He almost doesn't need Tesla.
Well, and what he has most of all is new contracts from the federal government, some of which we have not been able to see, that will bring him more money. I mean, this is a very back-scratching crony relationship between Elon Musk, who spent $250 million helping Trump get elected, $250 million, and the changes he's made. Musk's so-called DOGE, there is no Department of Government Efficiency in law, it's simply a policy of the Trump administration, fired every single federal official who was pursuing a case against Elon Musk's company for violating the terms of their contract. They fired the inspectors general, who are the in-house watchdogs at the federal agencies. This administration is determined not to be accountable, even though Trump ran for office saying, we're going to be totally transparent, we're going to be totally accountable. And of course, now they're doing, surprise, surprise, the exact opposite.
Yes, it'll certainly be one to continue to watch. It's amazing we're not even 100 days into this administration. David Cay Johnston, investigative journalist and author of It's Even Worse Than You Think, What the Trump Administration is Doing to America. Thanks for joining me. I was actually here on Times Radio the night of that first attempted assassination of Donald Trump. I broke the news. It happened in the middle of the show when I was covering a different slot. And that was the night, wasn't it? That was the night Elon Musk sort of came out and declared his support of Donald Trump. You've got to wonder in the future, is he going to see that as a mistake? Because it might mean the end of Tesla in the sense of it being a sort of eco, world-saving, Democrat-influenced company. Or are those government contracts that David Cay Johnston just referred to there, do they make it completely worthwhile for him? You're with Ollie Mann here on Times Radio.